Hello, Crosstown Gamer here, and today we're going to be playing through one of the coin games, specifically number 6 in the series, and that's Falling Sky, the Gallic Revolt Against Cesar. We're going to be playing this against the bot factions, so there are going to be 3 bots, 4 if you count the Germanic tribes, and then we are going to be playing as the Romans today. So traditionally this is a 4-player game, but we're playing by ourselves, so just playing against the bots. This is going to be part of a much longer series where I'm going to be playing through each of the coin games. I've already done a series on Cuba Libre. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check out my channel for the playthrough on that. That just finished up not too long ago. And if you're eager to get into the action and see how this game plays, an actual gameplay, go ahead and skip on to video 2. In this video, we're just going to be doing a setup overview and how to play. And so we're not actually going to start playing until the next video. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and skip. Otherwise, if you're still here, let me take you through how to play this game. And I'm not going to assume that you have any prior coin knowledge, really. Maybe a tacit familiarity with it, but I don't want you to have to watch the entire playthrough of Cuba Libre that I did just to get some of these basic concepts down. So I'm going to go over some of that material here. And just a little side tidbit, I did get a chance to play this game as a part of CoinFest just this past weekend, actually, and both game designers were present at CoinFest and actually got to play this game with Andrew. So that was a lot of fun, and hopefully that means that I have a pretty decent understanding of the rules, and the only thing that should really trip us up is the bots, because we had 4 people there, so we didn't play with the bots, and I don't know how well these translate from Cuba Libre, because the Cuba Libre bots were fairly straightforward. We ran into some issues, but hopefully these are similar to those. Okay, without further ado, that's my little... I was, starstruck, and that was my little tidbit, and now we're going to learn how to play this game. So, what is Falling Sky? This is going to model Julius Caesar's foray into Gaul, which is pictured here, in the early 50s BC, or really in the entire decade, and his conquest, or basically his conquest of this region, which is Gaul. So I have some background in the history, but not enough. I need to read a lot more to really get this down. But what are we looking at here? This is all of Gaul. It's divided up into different regions, and these regions have various symbols on them, which we'll go through. You'll see there are 4 different colors here, and 5 if you count the black Germanic forces. And so each of these translates to one of the different factions that we're going to be playing as today. The first faction, which is what we are going to be, is going to be the Roman Republic. It's led by Julius Caesar, and that is represented by this large pawn here, or marker. I don't know what you would call cylinder. And the Roman Republic, led by Julius Caesar, starts down here in Provincia region, and a little bit up here in the north as well. Then we have the Aedui Confederation. These are blue, light blue, and they are kind of in the middle of the board here, sandwiched between all of the other players. And the reason I put them off to one side of the board, I put the Germanic tribes up there because it's just close to Germania, which is the darker shaded, the black shaded regions over here. But I put these 2 together because they're sort of tacitly aligned. They have different interests, but they need to work together in order to actually make any headway. Otherwise, they're going to have a tough time. And then over here we have the Arverni Confederation, which are green. And we have the Belgic tribes, which are this kind of melted butter popcorn color. Yellow, I guess, but it's not really an orange. It's kind of in between. So we'll call them yellow, and we'll call that good. So what do we have as far as, like, what do all these different pieces mean? These hexagonal cylinders are called warbands. They have an underground side, which is the non-symbol side, and they have or this is like a hidden side, actually. I think they call it hidden in this. It's underground in Cuba Libre. And then a revealed side, or an active side, and that has an embossed symbol on it. So these are warbands, and it's the same for the Arverni and the Aedui and the Germanic tribes. They're all called warbands. The Romans have a similar piece. However, these are not called warbands. They're called auxilia. And so that's what those are here, auxilia. Then we have these little discs. These are sort of akin to bases, a little bit, and in the other coin games, if you're familiar with those. These are allied tribe discs. They're going to end up going out onto the board. You can see we have some already on there. And so, for example, in the Senones region, the Arverni have an allied tribe. So the Arverni are allied with the native people of Gaul. There's a tribe called the Senones tribe, and they are allied with them. So you can see these different colored discs all around the board, and that's what those are. Those don't have a distinction between the Gallic forces and the Romans. They're all called allied tribes. You can see there's allied tribes here. And then the third type of piece we see are these blocky squares. And these are called citadels. And they're called citadels for all of the Gauls. And they're called forts for the Roman player. So the Roman player, if you're familiar with coin, usually coin games have like a government faction and like a bunch of insurgent factions. And so the Romans sort of act as a government player in a way, because they're just different. But it's not a very good translation. So then lastly, the other type of piece that we have on the board are these really tall pawns. There's one for the Romans, and this is Julius Caesar. This is the leader. And we have one up here for the Belgae, and that is Ambiorix. And we have one down here for the Arverni, and this is Vercingetorix. And so I think that's all the different... Oh, no, there is one more type of piece. There are these smaller cubes. And these are Roman legions. They're very strong. But you don't want to lose them for a variety of reasons. It gets the Arverni closer to winning, as well as makes the Senate really mad. So we'll talk about the Senate here in a bit. But that's what you're looking at as far as types of pieces. Also along the top, we have a resource track, and each of those cylinders are tracking the various resources that each faction will have. And then there are smaller markers here, and that's tracking the victory condition for each faction. And it's similar to other coin games or Cuba Libre or any of the other ones, really, where along the edge of the board you can see Roman victory, ? Belgic victory, ? And this is supposed to indicate that if ever we cross that threshold, we will be in contention for winning the game if a winter card comes up. Whenever you cross a victory threshold, you don't instantly win, but if you can hold it there until the winter, then you win. So the Arverni are here, and the Aedui, you'll notice they don't have a marker here. Theirs is tracked on their faction sheet here with this othermost allies marker. So there's a lot of little manual things we need to keep track of, but it'll show you how close the various factions are to winning. The Romans are 2 away, Belgae are 1 away, the Arverni are 3 away, and the Aedui are like 5 away, 4 away. Okay, so that's the basics there. What are we looking at on the map? Each area is divided up into, or this whole area of the map is divided up into regions, and each region has a little box with a number in it. And some of those already have markers in them, and some of them don't. So what those markers are, they indicate whether one faction has control of a region or not. You have control if you have more pieces on that in that region than everybody else combined. So the green player, the Arverni, have 8 pieces if you count this, and none of the other factions have any pieces there, so the Arverni have control. Similarly, we've got 4 Edui pieces, so Edui have control. That's pretty straightforward for most of the map. Oh, and if someone doesn't have any pieces in an area, there's no control. And I don't see... Oh, here's one where there's a tie. So the Arverni have 4 pieces, the Edui have 4 pieces. No one has control. And again, it's based on the number of pieces more than everyone else combined. So if there was a Belgic warband in here, there would still be no control because each faction, so the Arverni would need more than 5 different pieces at this point to gain control. So even if they had exactly 5, this would still be no control because 5 pieces here is equal to 5 pieces here. Nobody has control. But if they get a 6th piece down, they would have control. That's going to be very important for the Belgic player specifically, but also for a number of other intricate aspects of the game. There's a number above that, and that number tells you how many of these circles or diamonds are within this particular region. So there's 3 here, 1, 2, 3, 2 here, 1, 2, and so on. It's kind of like the population number, if you're familiar with other coin games. It's not a direct analog, I guess, to that either. There's no support or opposition. It's sort of these support and opposition has been replaced with these tribes and their alliances there. So what do the diamonds mean? These are locations that are allied tribes, same as everywhere else, but they have the ability to be upgraded later on to one of the citadel pieces. So we'd take this one off, we'd put the citadel down, and those would go there. If a tribe does not have a disc on it, is considered to be subdued. That's going to be very important for the Roman player, which is us. And the other locations, sometimes they have this spot that says rally and it has a particular faction symbol. So there's one here. I think there's one, here. All of these Belgic ones have it. And then, that's it. Those are kind of the homelands of the various factions, so they get a bonus when they rally there, or they can always rally there. And we have Germania over here. This functions largely the same as other areas of the map, except the non-player faction starts over there and they can cause a ruckus. We also have the Rhine River, so that goes there. The Rhine is important because it ends up stopping a march command. You can march in certain circumstances, multiple spaces in this, which is a little different than other coins. And say you had 2 movement points, but you crossed the river, that would stop your movement there. Then what else? We've got Britannia up here, similar to the Rhine, where if you were to move across it, your movement stops, but there's another region up there. Then you have this overflow box, which if ever one of these places on the map gets way too crowded, you can just plop this overflow box down here and then put all the pieces over in this overflow box, so that way there's a little more room on the map. We also have this dispersed gathering marker. This affects victory points for the Belgic player. And then the last thing I want to talk about is going to be down here in this Senate box. This is going to be important for us. Whenever legions die in battle, then remember legions are these squares. they end up going to this Fallen Legions box, and that's really bad because we basically don't get those back. We can get them back, it's just kind of a long, drawn-out process to do. Normally, when forces are removed from the map, they go back to your faction sheet, and then they can be put back on immediately. Anything in the Fallen Legions box gets kind of stuck there until winter. And then some of them, depending on how well you're doing in this with the Senate, how much they like how Caesar is doing, some of these get put back up on these available legions track, and there are certain things which will allow them to come back from this track onto the map. So they're stuck there for a long time. You also don't want legions over here because as part of the Averni victory conditions, they win when they have they've killed more legions off, or they're over here or over here. This marker will tell you how well you're doing with the Senate, or the Roman player is doing with the Senate. Right now they start out at intrigue for this scenario, but it can go up and down. If they get really mad at you and you're doing a terrible job, they'll go to uproar, or if you're doing a great job, they'll go down here to adulation. And if they're in one of these uppermost boxes, this can, and then it something causes another shift to make it go up again. This can flip over to be firm, and it essentially needs 2 unwinds to put it back, and then back down to intrigue. So it's really hard to come back from if they're in uproar and the Senate is firm. But yeah, similarly, if we went down to adulation and flip this over, it's firm. Now something causes the Senate track to go up again. Rather than going up to intrigue, this would flip back over, and then it would take another level basically to make it go back to intrigue. I think that's essentially the basics as far as what's on the map. And yeah, now let's talk a little bit about what each of the win conditions are for each of the factions, because that's really important. In any coin game, you have a very asymmetric situation happening here. Each faction is vying for their own personal gain and end game goal, and they all behave a little bit differently. So the Roman player, what is it that they want in order to win? Well, let me show you here. We have a victory condition here. The Romans need subdued plus dispersed plus Roman allied tribes to exceed 15. So remember up here, if they're at 16, then they win. So let's unpack that a little bit. They want subdued tribes. That's every circle on the map that doesn't have a marker. There's a subdued word there. Plus, they want dispersed. There's a marker here I didn't talk about, but there's a dispersed down here. But there's a action that the Roman player can take to disperse a tribe, and that counts as well toward their victory condition. Only that one is on the map right now. And then plus all the Roman allied tribes, so anywhere where there's a red disc, they need that to exceed 15. So they need to be 16 or greater. If we were to count them all up, I'm not necessarily going to do it, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You get the picture. All the subdued circles plus all the red circles plus this dispersed circle right now is currently going to equal 14. That's how the Romans win. So what they want to do is kick out these tribal alliances, and they want to disperse tribes and basically just wipe the feet out from underneath the Gallic players. And so, why would they want to put a disc down themselves if this counts toward their victory condition too? This is just kind of like protection so that no other tribe can instantly put one of their own markers down. Okay, that is the Roman players' victory condition. You have the Aedui over here. They win in the sense that they look at all other factions, and whoever has the most discs down, count up how many that is, and the Aedui player needs to exceed that number. So I know that's probably super confusing, but if you look at the Belgic player right now, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 allied tribes. and that's the most out of anybody out here. At the ADUI, you only have 3, for example. So they need 7. The other most allies is here, and so to win, the ADUI need to have more than 7 allied tribes or citadels out themselves in order to win. So this will change as time goes on. Maybe, it could go down, it could go up. But that's how the ADUI is going to try to win. So they just want alliances out on the board. Then over here with the Belgic player, then you can look here. Belgic control plus Belgic allied tribes and citadels exceeds 15. So they also want allied tribes and citadels, but they also have this notion of Belgic control. You'll notice they're at 15 right now, but it looks like they have 7 of these markers and then only a few of the control markers out. So how are they getting to 15? Well, whenever they have control of a region, the number is what counts toward their victory condition too. So in this region, they have 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5 points, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for the 2, 12, 13, 14. So they should be at 14. I must have miscounted. I probably missed one. They should be at 15. I'll double check it though. And then lastly, the Arverni player. What do they want? They have a sort of complicated one. They want their allied tribes and citadels to exceed 8. That's the same as basically everyone else. They just want tribes and citadels. But they also want this off-map legions to exceed 6. So remember when I was talking about this down here? They want... Oh crap. I think I took this from here. They want the off-map legions, so any legions in this box or this box, to exceed 6. So they need 7 or more there. They're at 4 currently in the box. That's how they're all going to win. And so how do you actually play the game? There's a couple extra markers up here. There's devastated marker. We'll talk about that. Scouted marker. We're going to talk about those kind of as they come up. Germanic control, and then these capability, shaded, unshaded capability markers as well. And then we just have the control markers you've seen on the board, and an extra slot of markers there too. We'll talk about those situations as they come up. So we don't need to go into it yet. Lastly, we have the heart and soul of any coin game, and that's this sequence of play track here, and the deck of cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip over the first card, and this is going to be the first available card. And then we're also going to get to see the next card. So we get to flip this card over and see what it is, so we can sort of plan ahead. Now, the order at the top of this card, some of the cards have, 2 things, shaded and an unshaded part. There's a picture, there's a name, and some text, and then what you do for this event. So this is an event card. At the top, you'll see, and the focus is just a little wonky, so I gotta be careful. The 4 symbols of the 4 different factions, and the order that they're in is the order of initiative. So the first faction that gets to act on this card is going to be the Belgae. The second faction is going to be the Arverni, and then if one of them pass or they're ineligible or something, then the Romans would be up and the Aedui would be last. It's different on every card, and so on a particular card, we're going to look at this box. Everyone starts out eligible. I should note as well that the scenario we're doing is the medium length scenario. It's that's why these are set up the way they are. There's a short length scenario, which is only 3 campaigns, I think. 3 years. There's 3 winter cards. We're doing one with 4, and then the big one, Pax Gallica, is 5, all 5, and you use all the cards. So we did take out a few cards to make it a little shorter, but it's still quite a meaty deck of cards, so it's going to take a while to go through all of them. So these faction eligibility cylinders are going to dictate what you're able to do on your turn. So we noted that the Belgic tribes are up first. So they can choose one of these three options, or they can pass. If they pass, they stay eligible for the next turn and they get some resources out of the deal. If they don't pass, if they take a command or a command and special activity or special ability or an event, that locks in the next faction on what they can do. So say they did take this event, the next up would be the Arverni. They could choose to either pass, in which case they'd remain eligible, and it would be the Roman player up next to make a decision. So say they did pass, and it's the Roman player. The Roman player can also pass, or if they are going to play, they have to do this one in the box. So they have to do a command and special activity. Then, once that's complete, the card is done, we'll draw the next card and flip the next card over to see what it is. So then we'll play on this card. You'll see how it works. And these eligibility, anyone that took an action will slide to ineligible. Anyone that passed will remain eligible. And then on the next card, we see that the Arverni are the only ones that are eligible that are up first. So they would go, and then the ADOE player would get to go. So these tend to shuffle around. Once that card's done, so say they did this and maybe this. Once that card's done, these will slide over to eligible again. These will slide to ineligible, and then we repeat. There are 4 winter cards in the deck, and I'll explain this when we go through it. These are analogous to propaganda cards in Cuba Libre, or campaign cards in Gandhi, or there's different ones. Epoch cards in Pendragon, and so on. The winter, what you'll do if a winter card pops up, you'll put this frost marker down on the card that is before it. So if this was a winter card, this frost card would go here, and that just means you can't march on that card. Then we go through the winter phase. In winter, you check if anyone's won the game, if they are at or past their victory condition goal. And then we do a bunch of extra stuff, which we're going to go through only really when we get there. It's all important to know. The map's going to change kind of drastically. Forces are going to move around. People are going to get resources. The Germans activate and they'll start wreaking havoc and raiding. And then we check in the Senate and do some stuff there. And lastly, we would just reset everyone to eligible, hide everyone again if they're revealed, and so on. So yeah, there's going to be 4 of those. For the solo game, so normally in a game, if anyone's won, the game ends early in the winter phase. But for the solo game, in order for us to win, we actually have to make it until the last one and still be winning in order to actually win. If any non-player wins in an intermediate winter, not like if the first one or the second one, whatever, then we lose right away. But the only way we win is if we get through that entire deck of cards, basically, and do it from there. So it's going to be a long road, but all roads lead to Rome, so there you have it. The last thing I wanted to show you before I signed off and we actually start playing in the next video, we've got these pawns up here. These are going to be marking places where you're doing your command. So if I was doing a command here and here, say, I would put these markers down, pay my resources. They're just a nice handy reminder. And then the black pawns are where you're going to do your special abilities. So if I did a special ability here, I'd put it there. I'm probably going to forget to use them at some points in the game, and that's okay, but they're nice. And we've got the rule book over here. There's like the playbook. I do have the Ariovistus expansion, and I think it came with this non-player rules, so I wanted to keep it there. We're not playing with the Ariovistus expansion. I might do a video series, maybe like a year from now or whenever, where I go through the entire. You can go through a whole campaign with the Ariovistus expansion, and then it stops, and then things switch around, and then you do basically the entire long like a super campaign. And I might do that at some point, but not for this video. Then lastly, we have a foldout. This happens to be similar to like every coin game has a foldout. So this shows you all of the Roman commands that you can do and all the special abilities that you can do. So if we were to recruit, for example, we would take a look at these, and we'll get very familiar with this. And if I was able to do a special ability, I wouldn't get to pick everything here. I would just get to pick either build or scout from this action. Or scout or besiege down here. So you're sort of restricted on your special abilities. But what we can do is we can recruit. This adds more forces to the game. We can march, move stuff around. Seize, we get resources, and we just crush tribes. This is how we get those dispersed tribes onto the board. And the last thing we can do is battle. Battling is a bit trickier than just removing cubes. You have to calculate losses, and people can retreat, and if your leader's there's a bunch of stuff that happens. So it's definitely the most complicated aspect of the game, but we'll make it through. And similarly, if you fold it out, it shows all the Arverni commands, special abilities, their victory condition, Belgic tribes, and a Dewey on the back. So this is kind of like our handy reference guide that we're going to need. There's a sequence of play chart, and this tells you basically what I've already gone through with, if you do the event, then the next person has to do this, and so on. But it shows you everything that you do on a winter card. So you check for victory, and then the Germans do this. So that's really handy. On the back, you have the German sheet, which in a winter card, first they're going to rally, then they're going to march, and they're going to raid, and so on. So we'll go through that when we get to it. Then we have the flowcharts. We don't have to worry about the non-player Romans, because we're playing the Romans. But you can see these get pretty complex. So every time the Arverni player is up, we're going to check this condition, and we're going to go through this flowchart, and it's going to tell us which commands and which special abilities, or whether they take the event, or whether they pass, and so on. So this is the AI here is somewhat sophisticated, and there's a lot of room for error, and so I encourage you to point out any mistakes I make as I go along, so hopefully we can all learn together. And lastly, the final thing here is we have this battle procedure fold out, and I had mentioned that battles can be pretty complex. This takes you through everything you need to know for battles. We'll go through it the first time or two, but then after that, we should be able to just do it on our own without referencing the sheet. There should be situations where it's straightforward. And then some events have special instructions on them. So this is a chart that shows all the different events and all the different special instructions that there might be. And just some guidelines. For example, it says in order for us to win on there, then we need to make it to the last campaign card. The other rule breaker, the big rule breaker that the AI have is anytime you would do a command only, or a limited command, which means a command but only in one location on the map, so one region there. Anytime the AI would do a limited command, they're actually going to get to do a full command and special ability. So that's kind of a balancing mechanism to make it just make it a little more difficult. So they get to do a full turn every time, whereas we're stuck with whatever we see here. And I think that's it. I'm going to wrap it up here and just double check to make sure everything is located on the map where it should be, because I was moving stuff around. And I think we'll get to actually start playing here in the second video. And we'll see that the first card that comes up is Warfleet, followed by Commius. So, hope everyone has enjoyed this video and it's a little more clear to you. And if not, if you're still confused about some things, we'll definitely iron them out as we play through the game. It's bit of a beast, so but we're gonna have a lot of fun. At least I hope. Um, when I did play this game last, I was the Belgic player, and I got second place. The Romans didn't end up doing quite as well, and that's because their Averni came in and like smashed them to the side. So hopefully we can avoid that same mistake as the Roman player, and yeah, hopefully we can just we can crush these Gallic tribes. All right, well, have a great rest of the day, everybody, and we'll see you next time. This is Falling Sky.